This angel is worse than Satan, and this is also the angel that was responsible for creating demons. The book of Enoch describes a group of fallen angels known as the Watchers, and these angels are believed to be some of the first angels that sinned against God. In this video, I will be focusing on the leader of these angels, Samyaza. Samyaza was responsible for corrupting humanity in the worst way imaginable. Samyaza led the 200 Watchers to sin against mankind, and this nearly wiped out humanity completely. And perhaps it would have if God didn't intervene. This is how this angel nearly eradicated humanity as a whole. First, Samyaza had lust for human women. However, he was scared to commit such a sin by himself. So he told the 200 Watchers this: "I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin." And they all answered him and said, "Let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan but to do this thing." Then swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. This agreement occurred on Mount Hermon. After the Watchers made this agreement, all hell broke loose. The result of Samyaza and the other Watchers interbreeding with humans were monstrous hybrid beings known as the Nephilim. These hybrids were so evil that they nearly erased humanity completely. The book of Enoch says, "And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 300 ells. They consumed all the acquisitions of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Their reign began in the days of the righteous patriarch Jared, the father of the prophet Enoch." This incident is also covered in the Bible, which highlights how disastrous this moment was in biblical history. The Bible mentions how there were Nephilim in the earth in those days, in the book of Genesis, and also how the sons of God lusted for the daughters of men and created these hybrid beings. The Watcher's name literally translates to the sons of God, so the Bible was referring to these angels. In the book of Giants, found at Qumran, Samyaza, through this forbidden action, fathers two half-breed giant sons, Ohia and Haya. The book of Giants is an apocryphal book which expands upon the Genesis narrative of the Hebrew Bible, in a similar manner to the book of Enoch. References to the giants are found in Genesis 6 verses 1 through 4, the books of Enoch, Ethiopic, Slavonic, Hebrew, Greek, Jubilees, Genesis Apocryphon, 2 and 3 Baruch, Slavonic, the Damascus document, and visions in Daniel 7, 9, 14. This book tells of the background and fate of these antediluvial giants and their fathers, the Watchers. But let's speak more about Samyaza's direct hybrid children, Ohia and Haya. Enoch was ordered by God to preach repentance to the giants and Watchers so that they would avoid God's wrath and destruction. And this act by God alone lets us know how forgiving He truly is. In His mercy, God gave Samyaza's giant sons, Ohia and Haya, dreams, and these giants relayed the dreams to the other Nephilim and the Watchers. This assembly of Watcher giant associates were perplexed by the dreams, so they sent a giant named Maweh to Enoch's abode and to the places of his preaching, for Maweh had been instructed that he must first hear the prophet speak before petitioning him for the oracle. Enoch, in his attempt to intercede on their behalf, provided not only the oracle that the Watchers and giants had requested, but also twin tablets that revealed the full meaning of their dreams and God's future judgment against them. When the Watchers and giants had at last heard heaven's response, many chose, in their transcendent pride and arrogance, rather than to turn from their evil ways, to act in defiance against God. Let's now look at how the leader of the Watchers nearly wiped us out, and how this terrible angel and those in agreement with him were punished by God. After Samyaza and the other Watchers created these creatures, the Watchers also began to teach humans forbidden secrets and knowledge that destroyed humanity. Ultimately, the Watchers' teachings made humans separate from God. These angels taught us things like magic, forbidden arts, and sciences, all of which humanity used to destroy one another. Particularly Azazel. This angel is usually highlighted as the angel who taught the most destructive teachings to humanity. Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. Azazel is a chief watcher directly behind Samyaza. If you would like a second, more detailed video on Azazel, comment Part 2. For this video's focus is about Samyaza, the leader of these angels. Samyaza taught humans enchantments and root cuttings. So essentially, Samyaza taught humans about magic. The form of magic he taught humans was most likely dark magic, due to the fact everything these angels taught humans caused us to walk away from God and destroy one another. During this time, everything on the earth was hectic. Between the angels' hybrid offsprings, the fallen angels, and the fallen angels' teachings which affected humanity for the worse, the world became much more dark. Things such as witchcraft became popularized during this time and also after that. We can see this kind of magic prominent in places such as ancient Egypt. Priests were the main practitioners of magic in pharaonic Egypt, where they were seen as guardians of a secret knowledge given by the gods to humanity to ward off the blows of fate. We can clearly see these so-called gods are just fallen angels being worshipped as the false gods that we were warned about in Exodus 20 verses 3-5. In ancient Egypt, the most respected users of magic were the lector priests, who could read the ancient books of magic kept in temple and palace libraries. In popular stories, such men were credited with the power to bring wax animals to life, or roll back the waters of a lake. But this magic was also used for evil purposes. Though magic was mainly used to protect or heal in ancient Egypt, the Egyptian state also practiced destructive magic. The names of foreign enemies and Egyptian traitors were inscribed on clay pots, tablets, or figurines of bound prisoners. These objects were then burned, broken, or buried in cemeteries in the belief that this would weaken or destroy the enemy. So this segment just shows us how much this ancient culture was also impacted by the Watcher's teachings, particularly the teachings of Samyaza regarding his enchantments. Samyaza is directly responsible for what we now call the occult world, where magic is practiced amongst people who studied the esoteric significance of our world. These very same teachings are believed to be practiced by those in power still till this day to maintain a high position in society and also to brainwash and deceive the masses so they can maintain their power. A common theme is seen when we begin to look throughout the history of powerful empires. Nearly all of the most renowned leaders of the time practiced or believed in some sort of mysticism for advantages to maintain or gain power. Look at the Egyptian pharaohs, for example. Even in departure, magic was used in their ceremony to cross over into the afterlife. All Egyptians expected to need Heka, which is the Egyptian word for magic, to preserve their bodies and souls in the afterlife. And curses threatening to send dangerous animals to hunt down tomb robbers were sometimes inscribed on tomb walls. The mummified body itself was protected by amulets hidden beneath its wrappings. Collections of funerary spells, such as the coffin texts in the Book of the Dead, were included in elite burials to provide esoteric magical knowledge. These spells that were taught to humans were not just some fantasy either. At least 13 people who opened the infamous King Tut's tomb mysteriously passed away shortly after. And all of the cultures which practiced magic also have stories similar to that of the Watchers, descending down to Earth and manipulating humanity genetically. This story is prominent in ancient Mesopotamia, where deities known as the Anunnaki came down and then manipulated human DNA. However, for this segment, we will particularly focus on the Bible and what it says about this heavenly secret known as magic, which was taught to humanity by the leader of the sons of God, Samyaza. Magic is an ancient practice rooted in rituals, spiritual divinations, and/or cultural lineage, with an intention to invoke, manipulate, or otherwise manifest supernatural forces, beings, or entities in the natural world. But when we ask ourselves how the mere natural, us humans, came into knowledge of this supernatural understanding, it all begins to come together and make one big picture. As we look in the Bible, we see different forms of this practice being used for more positive purposes, such as contacting God before Samyaza demonized this practice. Genesis 12:6-8 says, "At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, 'To your offspring I will give this land.' So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. Now, if we look back at the definition of what magic means, we see it means to also manifest supernatural beings into the world. And clearly this was done in Genesis 12, when Abram summoned God by creating an altar. As we can see, the natural and supernatural were always connected, as God intended it to be. God gave humans a vessel to contain a soul in order to live a life in which we spiritually grow closer to Him to reach a higher level of existence in the next life. Unfortunately for humans, however, Samyaza and the other sons of God drastically prevented humans from reaching the supernatural paradise, all due to their greed and fornication. Teachings such as magic separated us from God because it made humans rely on magic instead of God. The things the Watchers taught humans were not initially bad. However, they taught humans how to use them for bad purposes, which led to our demise. But also it led to the fallen angels and Nephilim's demise in the end. God made these hybrid creatures, and the Watchers wage a civil war upon each other in retaliation for these abominations corrupting the earth. This was a destructive battle that resulted in many of the Nephilim giants being slayed. This was the purpose why God made this civil war happen. Then the Lord ordered Archangel Michael to bind Samyaza and his associates for 70 generations, and after that time was up, they would be casted into hell forever. The final part of God's wrath was the Great Flood. The Great Flood was meant to destroy the remaining remnants of the corrupted genes on the earth. What people don't understand is Noah was spared from the flood because his genetics remained uncorrupted, whilst the rest of the world was affected in some way by the fallen angels' genetic manipulation. Now remember how I said Samyaza was responsible for creating demons? This is how the creation of demons came about. After Samyaza and his heavenly brothers created the Nephilim giants, and God eradicated them, there remained the evil souls of these monstrous beings. To conclude this video, I want you all to praise the Most High and the Most High only. Do not worship or praise angels. That is not the intent behind me making these videos. I make these videos to make it more fun for you all to learn about biblical history so I can turn more people to God. Thank you for watching the video. If you're interested in topics just like this one, check out my Book of Enoch playlist here.